So, welcome to this Focus 35 meeting in Odense and Agerskov and Brønderslev and Holstebro. After some technical problems, we should be able to start now. I will present to you today two speakers. We have Gunnar Sørensen from SEGES. Welcome to you. And after that, my colleague Simon from Porcus will talk about sow mortality and the diagnoses we see out there. So I hope, Gunnar, you will present yourself and then welcome.
Thank you very much.
Just one single thing. If there's any questions, I will open the chat, and you can, from other parts of Denmark, you can send questions to me on the chat, and we will ask them here in Odense for all of you. Okay.
Thank you very much to Porcus for the invitation to come here today. Jesper, he called me some months ago asking if I would come and give a presentation under the topic, a very long topic, learn how to use SEGES InSight to secure you a good understanding of why sow die on your farm. That was the title. I don't know how many of you who is familiar with SEGES InSight already. I can look at my audience here. Do some of you use it? No? No? Maybe you will. I hope you will. Because SEGES InSight is a new way of thinking. Actually, it's quite simple. We just use your own data, but we present it maybe in another way that you're used to from your management software, AgroVision or Cloud Farm, and maybe that gives you a better overview of the data you have on your farm. My name is Gunnar Sørensen, and I have been working for SEGES for many years, you can see. No hair left. Working with nutrition, AI, and now with SEGES InSight. Well, what is it? The reason why SEGES InSight was established was that we want to increase the survival of the sows, and actually also the piglets. So we have two parts. We have one working with sows and one working with piglets. And today we are going to talk about the sow part, but the piglet part work exactly the same way. And actually Gerben from Porcus was one of the guys who helped us establishing the system. But why is sow survival important? Yes, you know all the political reasons, you know the animal welfare reasons, but for you who work on the farm, there's also other issues. For instance, that is very hard work to take out a dead sow, especially if she's stiff and she's in the farrowing crate and there's no room for you to take out. That's hard work. Many people don't like to kill sows either, because you have to, first of all, you have to shoot her, and then you have to use a knife to take off the blood. And that's not so many people fond of that kind of work. What we like is to work with healthy sows because it's much easier and it gives very good results. Then we also must remember that dead sows, actually it costs you as a farmer, an employee, it costs you money because you have to pay for getting rid of the carcass. But if you can slaughter the sow, actually you're paid 12.4 Danish kroner per kilo. So that's 2,000-3,000 per sow. So that actually there's a lot of money involved in this too, to send them to slaughter instead of killing them. And we also need motivation, because if you want to change, it's not only the owner or the manager who must be motivated. All the workers must also be motivated. The vet must be motivated. Everybody must say, okay, now we do it, and we try to work with this topic. But what you need is a very good basis for the decision making, so that you say, okay, we make the right decisions because we want to increase our survival. And here, SEGES InSight can be a help. What we are doing with the SEGES InSight, and now it is in English and it is an English word, just saying that you have to look inside the figures and then you can see some things that you don't see just looking at it every day. By looking inside, you can also see, okay, this is the areas where we have the problem. This is the areas where we have to do something, and we have to do it exactly at that time of the cycle of the sow. And this overview is not easy to have if you use a normal program, because you only have a lot of data and you have a lot of figures, and you must look at all the figures and say, okay, this. The idea with SEGES InSight is that we want to show things using colors, using graphs, instead of all these figures. So it's more easy to understand, and especially if the employees speak different languages, it's easier to look at the picture saying, okay, look at the blue sows instead of see here 10, 5, 10, 5, and so on. But we also need very good records, because if we don't have good records of the sow, why you call them, and the reason for calling, then it's a little difficult to use the data afterwards. The reports, as I mentioned, gives you an overview, quite easy overview of where should I do something. And you receive the report once a month when we're talking about sow mortality and sow survival. And if you have piglet survival, then you get it every week. The reason why we only send it once a month for the sow herds is, of course, the number of sows, because so many sows don't die anyway. And you need some figures to say, okay, this looks okay. This report, you get it every month, and when the vet visits you, he has to come every month too, then you can look at the reports and you can say, okay, how does it look? And then you can also say, last time we decided to do this, and then you can follow up, or you can make new decisions based on this. But records, that's the most important thing here. We need precise records, because then you get the best overview of your results. And when I say precise records, it's as simple as the right dates and the right reasons. For instance, if you don't write the handles of this day where it happens, meaning that if the sow is dead 15th of September, and you don't write dead 25th of September, you have to do it right. And you also have to do the right reason, because if she is dead by herself, then you must write that down. Or if you killed her, it's another reason you should use. Whoops. From all your records, we take them from your management software. You don't have to do anything else. We just take out the data, send it back to you as figures and tables. So you don't have to do extra according to normal practice on your recording. And it's up to you to decide, okay, how detailed will I do this? Do I need many reasons? Do I need few reasons? It's exactly up to yourself. We are just the messenger here, taking in your data, delivering back in another form to you. Of course, we are discussing recommendations, and SEGES InSight also have its own recommendation for what kind of records we will recommend. You can see that at our homepage, SEGES InSight, but you can also discuss it with yourself and with the vets. If you should get started with this in a very simple form, I will say just have, for instance, like this, 4 categories, where you say feeding and feed, sudden death, legs, and farrowing. That could be the 4 different reasons for calling the sow. Then, of course, you have to see, is it a slaughter code, is it a dead code, or is it a killed code? And of course, if it has something to do with feed and feeding, normally you kill the sow herself or you slaughter her. If we talk about sudden death, of course, it's a death code. Legs, it's also normally killed or slaughtered. And when we're talking about farrowing, it could be all the three different things here. What do we mean by feed and feeding? Yes, it could be all lesions related to the nutrition. For instance, shoulder lesions, skuldersår. It could be skinny sows. It can be prolapses caused by toxins in the feed or other things. So everything related to nutrition is put into this code. When we're talking about sudden death, this is normally when in the afternoon she looks well, in the morning she's dead, and you don't know why. Just give her a code, sudden death. Then we have everything about the legs. It's about movement of the sow. It could be everything, lesions, absence in the foot and hoofs. It could be damaging in the joints, the lid, and it could be legs, and it could be hoofs. So everything related to the walking of the animal. Just give that one code, legs. And then, of course, we have farrowing, and all of it is, for instance, poor milking. It could be farrowing problems. It could be retained feces, where you had dead piglets inside of the sow, and everything related to the farrowings. In this very simple case, it's easy for you and for the vet to say, okay, most of my sows die because of legs. Because all of you and all of the employees in the farm, they make the same registration of legs. And if you say, okay, 80% of my kills because of legs, then together with your vet, you can talk about, okay, should we go a little further to talk about, for instance, could it be the joints we are going to look at? Could it be the hoofs we are going to look at? Or whatever. So you'll be more detailed in the way of recording. And then you get more precise information afterwards. That, okay, it's the hoofs who's the problem, for instance. So this is a good way of starting. And the good way with a few codes is that it's uniform codes, meaning that it's, if you ask 10 people to make a diagnosis of a sow, they will make exactly the same diagnosis. If there was 20 different codes, I guess 10 people will make 5 different codes. And then it's difficult to interpret afterwards. Here's another one where we put in more codes. You can see we have, for instance, something like reproduction. We have something adjustment to the batch, meaning that you have forsikringssøer, security sows you kill afterwards. Or it could be age. All reasons just for slaughtering the sow. But you can put them in too, and then you can decide to have more detailed codes. But again, it's up to you and to the vet to decide which code are we going to use, and you are responsible for that you use the same code for the same sow. So simple codes is the best. So the diagnosis is very, very important, precise diagnosis if you want to focus on where is the problem. And here it's what I just say, the day-to-day work on the farm must be uniform. Also in the weekend, when the owner takes care of the sow, then he must also know where should I put the causes for death, kill, or so on. And of course, it creates this overview. And here I would strongly recommend to talk with the vet about what kind of records are we going to do, what kind of codes are we going to use. All of you, I guess you use the phone when you put in the records. And if the management software isn't set up the right way, then you can maybe have on your phone 20, 40 codes. Because you have a mix for piglets and for sows and so on, because the management system isn't designed the right way. And then it's difficult to make right records. It's quite simple to set up the system once when you start. I know some of the vets are quite good at this, but also sometimes you need support from maybe from Cloud Farm or Agrovision to set the dots the right way in the management system. Meaning that you only have 5 codes when you look at the phone for dead sow, then you say, okay, this is the one. So this is important that you have the right management system. This is one of the typical mistakes we can see from the farm joining the product at the moment. It is that people are not aware of how to design the profile correctly. Well, what is SEGES InSight? Yes, it's about survival of the sow. And what we can do with SEGES InSight, which you can't do with other normal management system, is that you can look at the sow survival over a longer period to see, okay, what is happening. You can also make a classification of the most important challenges on the farm for the sow survival. And then you can follow up on your decisions you have made together with yourself, with the manager, with the vet, or whatever. But the most important thing is that we look at the same thing and we make the same decisions based on the same factor. What is the report? Yes, the report is at the moment it's in Danish. Next month we will also send an English version. It's possible to ask for that if you want the English version. But it's a PDF version, just sent to the email, your email, owner's email, vet's email, once a month. And there you can see the results from the last months. What contains the version? Yes, of course, first of all, an overview. Then you have a benchmark where you could look especially on the dead or killed sows. We have an overview of the distribution of the culling codes, slaughter, killed, or dead. We also have an overview of the distribution of the dead and killed sows. Why do we think they're dead or killed? And then we have a distribution of the diagnosis. This is what you get. If we should start with the overview and the benchmark. Here in this table you can see this is all the farms joining the system. This is, I think there's about 80,000 sows behind this figure here, and today we have about 150,000 sows involved in the benchmark. What we are doing is that we are dividing the farms depending on the level of sow mortality. So if you have a very low mortality, you are in the dark green, and then if your mortality increases, then it goes more green, yellow, and ended up in red. And this is the area here, and the red is 75% of the results from the farms. We don't show the results from all 100% because I can tell you we have farms also up in this area here where they are extremely high in sow mortality. But here you can see this is the actually results from the farm, from your farm. And here you have the time schedule where you can see, okay, here we have months and year, and you can over a longer period see, okay, what is happening with my sow survival or my sow mortality. In this case, you can see, okay, there's an increase, and the increase, where is that? That is during the summer 21. I can go down and see, okay, what was the reason? And then I can see there's more blue sows in these 2 months here compared to the other months, and that's the number of dead sows that is increased. So you have the explanation directly, why do I see this increase? It's not just because that we have new people working and they start killing a lot of sows. No, it actually has something to do with, maybe it could be that you're entering the silos with barley or wheat. It can also be something with temperature. Yeah. Down here we have the parity. You can see how old are my sows in the farm. Gills first, second, and so on. And this is important also to understand the figures. How is the age of my sow? Some farms prefer young sows and kill all after six litters, and some say, okay, if she's fresh, I continue. The next one here is where we look into the cullings on parity based. You can see 0 here is the gills, first parity, second parity, third parity, and so on. And all the figures will be added. And the blue ones is the one being dead by himself, the red ones is the kills, and the yellow ones is the one go for slaughter. So up here in the top, this is the total number of sows going out on the farm. We can also look at the actual figures of the different parities. So you can see here how many sows, it's not that many going out as gills, more as first, second, and third litter sows. And then, of course, there's a reduction. But most of them go for slaughter, but you can also see there's some kills and dead sows also in this period. The last one here showing where in the cycle does it happen. This is the first 4 weeks after service, 4 to 8 weeks after service, 8 to 12, and 12 to 16 up to farrowing. So I can see exactly in which period of the gestation period do I lose my sows. Then we have the farrowing, we have first lactation period, second, third, fourth, and after weaning. And in this case, we can see, okay, all the yellow sows, all the sows go for slaughter. Yes, they're slaughtered after weaning or in the end of the lactation period, so it's okay. But we also slaughter some of them in early gestation, meaning that they are not pregnant and we don't want to re-inseminate them. We can also see that we lose something, some of the dead sows, we lose them close to farrowing. So this is the overview, and I know that the time is short, so maybe we should skip this and go to the distribution of the kills and dead sows. Again, this is based on parity, 0, meaning gills, first, second, and so on. And we have looked into for different months. Here we have for the last 12 months, for the last 9 months, for the last 6 months, and for the last 3 months. Because of the low number of animals, we have to, and when we make decision, we can say, okay, is it a short-term problem or is it a long-term problem? That's the reason why we want to look at it in different periods. And the longer period, more sows, is based on the decision. Here we can see after 3 months, there's a lot of sows going out as killed or as dead, and it's 6 parity sow. Then we can go over here and say, for the last 12 months, what is the reason for this sow to be killed or die? This is the orange. Then we can look here at the orange. What is that? That's infection. This is the yellow. What is the yellow? This is something with the legs. And then we have a red one. And what is the red one? Nothing. It's because you haven't put any diagnose on this sow. Then we can't write anything because we just interpret your results. So in this case, you can just look at the farm data of culling and of killing and dead sows, and you can look at the reasons why does it happen. The same you can do for the cycle, starting again, the same way as the other one I showed you from the beginning of pregnancy and to at the end of farrowing. And here you can see, again, for the last 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. And here you have the reasons for this to happen. Let's see, for instance, for a period like the last 4 weeks up to farrowing, you can see there's a lot of blue ones. What was the blue ones? That was the sow died. We can go up here and see, okay, what is happening? Why do the sow die? Yes, it's because of the orange. And what is the orange? It's because of an infection. Then you have the knowledge, and then you can start discussing with the vet, what should we do about this, right? So, How can you join this SEGES InSight? Yes, first of all, you have to use Microsoft or CloudFarm as a software. We can't use Skjold if some of you have that. So we need one of these two systems. Then you register on our homepage. You can do it, for instance, together with the vet. It's quite simple. We need a lot of information. We need some information about the farm, the system, the number of farrowing pens, the number of sows, and so on. And then we, of course, need an approval because we are asking for your data and we send it back to you, of course. But because we have your data, we need your permit to use your data for this transition. And the most important thing here is, of course, the registrations. And it's very important to understand that if you have good and accurate records, then you also have good and very useful reports to work on with reducing the sow mortality. And if you want, you can also, there's other information on our homepage where you can see some of the other reports. You can also see the reports on the piglets. If you have any questions, of course, you can call me, but I will recommend you to call Anne Freyer because she's the technical support of the product. So if there's anything you should be changed, you want to change an email or something like that, she can do it because she can go behind the systems and work with them. And I can tell you that hopefully very soon we will follow up with a new type of reports where we look more into productivity, not only mortality of sows and piglets, but also look into reproduction more detailed. And I think it's a good tool. And what I hear from farmers working with that is that they're quite happy, they're quite satisfied. And also what I hear from the vets, they say it's a similar tool. It's much easier to go from farm to farm because they have the same type of reports instead of using a lot of time. It's drawing out figures from the management system. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Gunnar. It was very interesting. And I would say also these reports, if you want to join, you can put in the email of the vet. So the vet, in fact, will get the report directly into his or her mailbox. And if you're lucky, the vet could be prepared before visiting you. That would be nice. If you have any questions to Gunnar, also in other parts of Denmark, you can send a chat to me. I'm open here. Any questions in the room here? Otherwise, because we were starting a little late, then I will say thank you to Gunnar. Interesting. And we will be pushing out there to get more of the farms joining this SEGES InSight program. It's really a good tool to get more knowledge about the sow mortality, so we can raise the survival of the sows. And now I will welcome Simon, and he will teach us how to make the right diagnosis. I hope so. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Gunnar. This is a very good system, and of course the data you provide is not better than what you provide. So right here, I will try to make sure that you have the correct diagnosis and you diagnose early, but we'll get into that. First, we can divide them in the fallen stock or the dead sows that is dead by themselves. That's normally, when we look at the data from SEGES and other places, this is the 6 groups where we have the highest mortality. So the ones that die by themselves is organ torsion, sudden death, that could be gas booster or whatever you call them out there, and it's fetuses, retained fetuses from the farrowing section. over here in the living sows, these are the ones funny to work with, because here the main reason why we kill a sow is mainly legs or hoof problems. And then we have some stomach ulcers. We can always discuss if we want that one in, okay, do they die by themselves or do we kill them? And then we have shoulder problems also. First, I would like you to read this. What is a diagnosis? Well, it's a functional disorder or a disease that underlying the patient's symptoms. That means that we can have a lot of diagnoses on a sow without them dying. We can have a wound here on the side. We can have one on the stomach. It's a diagnosis that is a function of the sow that can lead to them dying. But we'll get back to that. Here, you'll meet Sophie. Sophie is a young gilt. She's just came into the quarantine stable. Now we're just playing here. You have SEGES InSight right now. You have a diagnosis called legs. As Gunnar showed you, we have a lot of diagnoses underlying here. We can have some arthritis, some infection in the joint. We can have some cartilage inside the joint that is damaged, that will lead to limping. We can have some bone that is broken. We have some muscle, some nerves that could be destroyed or broken or whatever. And we have hoof damage, often infection in the claw, and also torn off big claw. What you have to look at when you see Sophie, you have to remember that all her weight goes down from the top, down the shoulder joints, down through the bones, all the way down to her legs. Here's all where the weight is. You get more or less into it. If you look at the claw here, if you take your finger and push here, this is the heel on the cushion. You can feel it. And what is happening sometimes, if the environment is very hot, you get hot here on the cushion. That's the same thing that happens here. The white line, what we call, is just under your nail. So this is where you can have a lot of infections. And the hoof capsule is more or less the nail. And we'll try to look at it from underneath. But first of all, try to look at the left schematic drawing. Here we have a structure of the bone. Is more or less your fingers. These are very small, and this is the ones they're walking on. If you see these small bone, what do we call them? These small bones in the middle, I'll try to point even though we cannot see it out in the country. These ones here. Here we got all the tendons from the muscles joining. Try to remember these. We'll get back to those. Over here, we got the heel cushioning is very important. And of course the heel sole and the drew claws also. How is the weight distributed on the claw? Well, the outer claw is always the ones taking the most weight. Around 75% of all the weight is on the outer ones. So when you look at it, look at her from behind, you have to look at the claws on the sides of her. And when we see the literature, and when we go through all the sows, 80% of the injuries are located there when we look at the claws. When can we start to make a diagnosis on these animals? I have a dream that what Gunnar he showed me, all these diagnoses we can have on live animals. So when Paul and me is coming, we also have a list where you can see, okay, we have so many with this disease, and this diagnosis. But we're not there yet. First you have to start here. This is in quarantine. When you get the young females, you have to start looking at them day number 1. Because this is Lego bricks. If you put them on in a different or weird way, you cannot put many on top of each other before it trips over. It's the same with the legs or that small diagnosis we add on to the sow all the time. On the first day, when we find her, we look for lameness in her. We have many limping gills the first week. Do we have any crooked legs like this? Do we have any long claws already? Or any undernutrition? Or do we have any skinny poles? This is what you look for. When you have been in there all day, 2, 3, 4 days, if you are walking around them, you start to lift the back leg. You can do that if you are calm and you do it every day, not jumping around on them. You will start to lift. And then you start to look at the claws. Do we have any injuries here already? Registered. We don't need to exactly do anything. We cannot do much about them anyway in the start, but we can know, so next time we can start over and do it even better. So remember to use this inspection, and I got a checklist. If you want, I can send it out for you. Then we have to look at the composition of her. Well, how big is she supposed to be? Well, a good measure is the back fat thickness before we inseminate her. Here we have a recommendation around 14 to 15 millimeters. What you see here in the top right corner is bone mass density up, and our optimal level is around 4,200 millimeters per second. That's the way we measure it. When we look at the back fat, these are all the animals they have scanned. It's a Dutch study from maybe it's 2 years old, I think. The optimal level of back fat is around 70 millimeters. What do we have? Well, we have around 14 or 15 as a recommendation. Maybe that's okay because depends on which machine you use to measure. So I think that's okay. So if we go for 14 or 15, but if you have ever tried it, it's very difficult at insemination to reach these goals. And if we look at the bone density, we see that if you're around 12 millimeters, that is what we recommend a minimum before we inseminate them. We still have many that is okay, but we also have many that is way below. So does it mean anything that we control this? Yes, it does. Why? Well, of course, due to bone strength, but also due to the risk of shoulder wounds. If they're very skinny, they have a higher risk of having a shoulder wound, and we need to slaughter them too early or they might end up dying. Here, we have to have an action plan. But what is an action plan? In my opinion, an action plan is a goal or a priority that you set, and you have a realistic timeline. Also, we discussed some economy here, and then you take action. That could be anything. This is a case I have of, it's a farm with around 700 sows. We have many treatment of these young gills and polder. And we have a poor survivability. They don't reach second parity, or some don't reach first parity at all. We have a lot of treatment. So our goal here is we would like to have mortality down to around the national wish is around 9%. We're not there yet, but we'll go there. And then we set up a timeline, or a realistic timeline. The farmer says, okay, we will do this in 6 months, otherwise we'll review our plan. And the economical, he's very cheap, as all farmers are, and he didn't want to use many money on it. So we reviewed the vaccine plan for the gilts. We changed the time a bit where we did our procedures, and then we added up some monocalcium phosphate, 40 to 50 grams per poult for 3 days a week. We started around a year ago in August, and up the ladder we have the sow mortality in percent, and out we have the different months, and the yellow line is a 12 months average in the farm. So we started at around 11%. We had 15 to 20% of all the gilts that were treated with medicine and painkillers. Half a year later, we are around 9%. And we only treat 1 or 2 per 100 animals. But when we look at the data 1 year later, we are around down at 7%. So this is, in my opinion, very good. Some farms can do even better, but for this farm it's a very good goal. And there's around 200 kroners per year sow in this. There's a lot of money in sow mortality. So it's a very important job. Now we have taken her into the mating unit or the gestation unit. If you remember Sophie from before, now she added up heels, high heels from her. In the blue circle here you can see now we start to see this overgrowth heel here. What does it mean? Well, it means, if you remember back, the percentage of the weight distribution is different now. Maybe it's 90% and 10%. That means that your bone structure starts to change inside the bone, and every time the bones have to change, it's a little pain. And every time we change the bone, we also have a risk of it breaking. And they need to do that. So this can be caused by a too moist pen, or too much shit in the pen. Also, at the young animals we have in the white line, we see many different infections here, also in the white line at the young sows. In the older sows, we see long claws, and here you have to remember on the left, as I showed you before, we have these bone structures here having all the tendons. As soon as they start to go down, like it is over there, well, the feet goes down and you have more weight on these small structures. And it's very painful for them. So here we have to look a little bit more on the feet. Can we use some other minerals or whatever we can to raise them up a bit more? As long as they got these long claws, we have a higher risk of tearing down the drew claws. And of course, once that's very painful for them. Second, it's an access point for bacterial infection, so we'll get an infection around the claw. And it's very difficult to treat these ones. This is in Danish what we call a klåbyld. So what can we do about it? This is another case where we have around 1,100 sows in the farm. Of all the sows we culled, we euthanized around 33% of them. We killed them because they slipped out. It was too slippery for them. So they fell down in the bottom or they broke the bone. So of course the owner, he called us up and told us we need to solve this problem. He told us that we can do more or less what it required, economical, and he wants to see results within the 4 weeks. The 4 weeks, I cannot say for 100% sure. But what we did is we grooved the floor to make sure it was not slippery. We had a focus on the sows. When they had an injury, we took them out to the hospital very fast. And this focus here is what you see in the bottom here is percentage of the sows we killed, of all the sows that went out of the farm. So we are around 32, 33%, 13 and 16 weeks ago. Now we are down at half. So these two cases just tells me that sow mortality, if we really have the high focus, if we really focus on the correct diagnosis, we can change it really, not really fast, all places, but we can change it a little bit. Now to the farrowing section. Welcome to the farrowing section, Sophie. Now you have all these diagnoses. You have some beautiful high heels up in the corner. You don't have any drew claws in here. Your sister mate has long claws, and one have infection still. This is what you see in the farrowing section when we walk around. I see it every day. And this is just Lego. We added up a lot of small diagnoses all the way through. And the best way to take care of it is in the farrowing section. A while back, my colleague Stine, she made a fine presentation on how to look at the claws, especially in the farrowing section, and make what we call a claw score analysis. That tells us exactly what kind of diagnosis do we have on your claws. It takes around 2 hours to make it, and it's a very good tool when we only talk about claws. And we have many diagnoses, as you saw before, inside the farrowing section. And it's right here we can take action. We'll try to see, okay, can we take one of these dots off and place it correctly again? Can we maybe cut some of the long nails? We can take some of it away. It will not fix the problem. But what we can do is we can put up a rubber mat for the ones standing like this so they don't slip when they're trying to stand up and they're laying a long time, so they have a higher risk of shoulder wounds. It's all these small dots we need to take care of. And then if we got an infection here, it's easy because they're lying still. We can spray them if we want to. And then we should always discuss with ourselves, do we really need to inseminate this sow again? Is it necessary? Because, okay, we can see maybe got 3 or 4 diagnoses. What's the risk of her dying before she comes next time? And as Gunnar showed you, there's 2.4 kroner, no, 12.40 per kilo. So there's also maybe economy to slaughter her a little bit before, if she got many diagnoses. Now we're going to talk a little bit about stomach ulcers. Sorry, I couldn't find any good sows, but what you have to look at here on these 2 piglets is the color of the skin. On your left side is very pale, and it's the first sign on what you see when a sow got a stomach ulcer. And then they stop eating, and then they stop drinking. And then the feces get very black because the bloods are inside the stomach, and the body trying to absorb it inside the intestines, and it comes out as very dark feces. Sometimes they get swirling, and they start because they're dehydrated, and there are a lot of pain. And in very bad cases, we'll end up in a stomach ulcer like that, acute. The action plan is very simple. It works almost at any farm. Got this problem, and our goal is that the sow stop dying. Our realistic timeline is around 1 to 3 months. Then we see the problem goes away. And we have to review our grinding. Do we grind it too fine? Then we have the stomach ulcer problem in the cells. When you have done this, I would like to take maybe 20 or 15 cold sows. We look at the stomach and make analysis of them. Where are we? The red ones is that is very bad, and the green one is fine. And if we got 20, we can benchmark them to other farms in Porcus. When you look at the shoulder wounds, you have to remember back, okay, did we do it correctly? Do she have a chance of having good quality claws so she can stand up correctly as many times, or is she just laying? If we got very skinny sows, so we didn't feed them correct in poultry, then we'll end up with a risk here, because very skinny sows don't have much to live on. So what we have here is a pressure sore wound. So what happened is that in the bottom picture there you see the shoulder here pushing down the skin, and the blood circulation stops here. And then the cells around this area dies, and then it will create a shoulder wound. There's different degrees of shoulder wounds. There's type 1 and type 2. Here we have a superficial wound. Type grade 2 is a more deep wound, just underlying the skin. Grade 3 and 4 is very bad ones. So those we need to take out to the hospital pen, or maybe before we end up killing me. We don't want to go down to 3 or 4, because yes, we can save them, but it takes a lot of time, and we will have a bad economy. So I'm trying to, have any of you have seen this before? Yeah? It's for shoulder, it's a shoulder wound measure. So what you do is, you place this on the shoulder wound. If it's just got a little dot here, you use some cream, maybe some spray. She needs a rubber mat in order to fix it. And here it's very important that we take into account our action plan here is that we got an acute phase here on this mark here. We just have a small wound that we can fix. So they need some kind of rub or spray or whatever, and then they need a rubber mat. SEGES has made a lot of studies on rubber mats, and it's working. It's really working. I know they're heavy. We need to take the sow out, put the mat in, and then go get the sow that is run away or in another pen. We need to go and find them. But it's working. So we most often don't get to 3 or 4 if it's dry. And then we need to work on the feed curves and the back fat of the gilt. Sows that dies by themselves. What to do?
Put them to the doctor.
Correctly. Put them to the doctor. Call the doctor. Because this is organ torsion. They all look the same. All in June or July, in the summer period, when they die in there, they all look the same. They're heavy, they're annoyed. We're not sure what it is. But when you cut them up, we often find a liver torsion. What we can work with liver torsions, and liver torsion is that one part of the liver turns around the other one, then the blood stops in the liver, and it goes out to the inside of the intestine, or outside the intestine. But anyway, what we can do here is we make sure that we feed the same dose, small doses in pharynx section 4 times a day instead of 3. That helps out the problem in most cases. This is a gastric liver or gas booster organ syndrome. It got many names. What it is an overproduce of a gas inside the liver. And what we can do here is we can again work with the feed here, make sure that we don't have any toxin in the feed, and if we have, we need toxin binder inside the feed also. But just remember, they all look the same. We cannot see it before we open them. There's also a vaccine for this disease that helps sometimes, but we need to send a little test to the laboratory to test that. The second part, if you remember back, is retained fetuses. So this means that we didn't observe in the farrowing section that we have any problems with her. She's just woke up dead one morning. And when I come to cut her up, it looks more or less like that. It's a retained fetuses. But you have to remember what you started with. This. And it's 3 totally different diagnoses. So when you see one like that, call the doctor, please, or the vet. Yes, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Simon. You were almost in time, or you were in time.
Yeah.
Any questions here? From here, and again, out there, you're able to send a message on the chat here, and I will say the question for Simon. But otherwise, while you're thinking, I would say thank you to both Gunnar and Simon. You're so polite. You talk about these data we need to put in there, and they have to be good, and you get good data in and you get good reports out. I usually say garbage in, garbage out. And I think that's one of the take-home messages here. If we want to join this SEGES InSight, yeah, we must be strict on the data we put in there so we are able to use the reports when they come out. Yeah. And one other thing, you remember we talked about over there, about the shoulder wounds, and I will point that out again as a take-home message. Please, we should be at the point where we never kill a sow with a shoulder wound in Denmark anymore. You know, if that happens, we reacted either too late or in the wrong way. So that is also a take-home message from here.
Or both.
Or both, yes, it could be both. Yeah. So far, there's no questions on the chat. Anything from here? Otherwise, yeah, Evgeny, yes?
I have a question about the organ torsi. Did you say like this?
Yeah.
Why it happened?
I need to say it again. Evgeny here is asking about toxins and
Organ torsion.
no organ torsions like the liver torsion, and the question is, why does it happen? Will you, Simon?
You were there, Paul. We don't know exactly 100% sure why they're happening. There is some theories that there is a genetic level, because anatomically the liver is fixated in 2 different bands, where one is longer than the other one. It's like curtains you put up inside and moves around like this. One is longer than the other one. I don't remember. It's the right one, left one. I don't remember. But anyway, the one is longer than the other one. And then got the opportunity to go over the other one. And there's a genetic part. But if we say it's only genetic, then why doesn't it happen to more sows? Well, then we think, okay, is this some reaction we put on the liver? And we know that if we feed them too hard, fill the stomach up too much, then we see overproduction of these torsions, or if we feed them with too high amount of protein. Sometimes we can see the amount of protein. If we put that down a bit, that could also fix the problem. But if you ask for the correct pathological reason why, I cannot say 100% sure. But we know what to do, more or less, even though we cannot explain it. It's funny, I can see myself here.
Okay, any more questions? Otherwise, I would say thank you for joining the meeting today. And in 3 months, we will meet again, and we will have a new, interesting program there. And hopefully, no parking tickets out there today. And I wish you a nice trip home. See you in 3 months. Okay, bye-bye.